All right, we're talking about masculinity. And masculinity is something that is internal to human beings and external to men, right? External masculinity and internal. Externally, looking like a man, internally thinking like a man. We can talk about masculinity and we can denigrate it, we can poo-poo it, we can talk about how evil it is if we talk about toxic masculinity. That's where someone exerts their dominance over somebody else simply because they happen to be the man in the relationship. That is toxic, and that's a bad thing. But masculinity doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be toxic. It means being who you were created to be, who you naturally are, doing the things that are expected of you, that you should be able to accomplish because you are a man. You have a basic understanding of certain things. So it involves physical strength and dominance, the ability to handle yourselves in any situation, and protect and provide for the people around you. That's a masculine thing. That's a good thing, right? It also involves a certain emotional stoicism so that you don't get wrapped around an emotional axle when something bad happens. You don't get too worked up when an excitable occurrence, something happens and there's an accident or a tragedy that doesn't throw you off so that you can no longer operate rationally and reasonably in a human fashion. An example would be a movie I watched here in Korea where some South Korean fighter jet pilots were confronted by a North Korean fighter jet pilot that crossed the border into South Korea and was creating a threat to the Blue House, which is like the White House in America. The Blue House is that building where the president resides. And so they had to protect the president, which is a good thing. In order to do that, however, they would have to array themselves against the lone intruder from North Korea. And in the process, one of the South Korean fighter jet pilots was shot down. He was killed. His jet plane exploded, and we assumed that he died, unless he was somehow able to withstand that explosion. In any case, for the next several minutes of the movie, the South Korean jet pilots went through their crying, their mourning stages. There's no time for that. There was an emergency situation where the fighter pilot from the north was trying to pick off and kill the fighter pilots from the south. There's no time to mourn the loss of one of their friends. They had to get back to the problem at hand, deal with that problem. There'd be time for mourning later, an appropriate place, an appropriate time. Emotional stoicism. It's a masculine trait. If you don't have it, work on it. It's part of being a man. And part of being a man, part of being exactly who you were created to be. Heterosexuality, not the LGBT thing, right? Not the gay, not the trans thing. That's not a masculine thing. There are some gay men that try to suggest that they are masculine, just as masculine as heterosexual men. They're not. Part of being a man is having an attraction to people of the opposite sex, the opposite gender. I'm using those two words interchangeably because there aren't 72 or 150 or 200 different genders. That's just stupid. There's two. There's men and there's women. There's people who are mistakes of nature, we call intersex, born with traits that would be attributable both to men and to women at the same time. But obviously they're an aberration. They're not a whole category of people that are naturally born. They're mistakes. And even they have to choose whether they're going to be generally male or female. God created men and women. Men and women, He created them. That's the way it is. For the men, becoming masculine, becoming the men that we were created to be, is part of our job. Right? Independence and self-reliance. Independence means we don't have to have someone that can take care of all of the problems around us. We can do some of those things ourselves, or we can do all of those things to maintain our independence and our existence without somebody else doing them for us. We don't necessarily do it. We can invoke a chef to do the cooking for us, or a mechanic to do the fixing for us, right? Or a builder, a contractor to do the building for us. But we should know how to wield a hammer. We should know how to work ourselves in an internal combustion engine where there's basic systems of heat or spark, right? Of fuel and oxygen. And if something goes wrong with an engine, with one of those systems, we can narrow down which system is broken. And then we can trace back from the combustion itself to figure out where the problem happens to be. It's part of becoming independent and self-reliant. Not necessarily getting those things fixed ourselves, but knowing how to get them fixed. So if we're away, if we're in the middle of Africa and we're driving a VW bus and somehow there's a problem with the engine, we have to pull over, the people that are on the bus are not in danger because we're going to be able to create a Band-Aid fix that'll get us to the next point that will allow us to continue on with our journey. It's our independence and our self-reliance. People are relying on us. We are relying on ourselves in order to get through that problem. Physical prowess, of course, also involves a matter of strength, right? So going to the gym, becoming stronger. We should be able to lift our weight, right? When it comes to a bench press or a pull-up, right? We don't have to become Arnold Schwarzenegger at his Mr. Olympia best. We should just be able to handle ourselves and handle those people around us. We can watch movies where somebody is falling off a cliff and somebody will reach out a hand and they'll grab them and then they'll pull them up a single hand into a safety. Women that do that, men that can do that. Most men cannot do that. No women can do that, right? But it's a value. It's a masculine trait. It's something that we should aspire to. We should be able to be strong enough to handle our own weight. And if that's the case, we can generally handle the weight of those people around us. Because usually people don't weigh as much as we do. Right? It's a masculine thing. We should be able to handle ourselves in battle if necessary. Not that we go out seeking battle, but learn basic concepts of boxing or fighting, MMA or jiu-jitsu if you want. It doesn't really matter what form you're going to use, but do something to demonstrate that you have the confidence to handle yourself in a physical altercation. Being gentle is not about being weak. It's about being strong enough that you don't need to. Peace through strength. You might put it that way in order to explain. It's a masculine thing. Endurance. You should be able to maintain yourself through a prolonged period of time of hiking, running, working, whatever the challenge happens to be. Endurance. It's a masculine trait. If you're weak on endurance, as I am, work on it. Try to develop that endurance and become better at it. Even long distance running if necessary. I did a marathon one time, but that was about 20 years ago. No, it was 14 years ago. Could I do it again? Yeah, probably. But not yet. I would have to train and be the rest of 2025. The end of 2025, I can run another marathon. Well, maybe I should start training for that now. Not that I'm going to actually do a marathon, but I should be able to have that kind of endurance. Withstanding pain and hardship when things are not looking so good, when we're experiencing something biting us, we don't have to lose track of wherever we happen to be. We can deal with that pain, right? We can absorb that pain and still go forward with a clear mind and do what needs to be done, right? Being able to deal stoically, there's that word again, with all of those things that would otherwise distract us. Being able to overcome obstacles, right? To jump, to run, to climb, to get past those things that would stand in our way. So strength training could be weightlifting or body weight training or calisthenics. It could be, what's this craze? It's a calisthenic body weight kind of thing where people try to do as many exercises in a short period of time as possible. It's a nice kind of thing, but it doesn't really work for someone like me at 64, 65. I'm not really suited to that kind of living, so I'll do a lot of weight training, but I'll do a lot of endurance type training as well, running or walking, right? Cardiovascular training could be anything from running, swimming, cycling, high intensity interval training. That's kind of a popular thing these days, the HIIT, HIIT. Sometimes people just call it HIT. HIIT, I think, is the proper designation. Flexibility and mobility, yoga, Pilates, stretching, nutrition, eating the right foods. Rather than eating the foods that we want, look, I want to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I want good stuff. We have some great donut shops here in town. I haven't tasted the donuts at these shops for the most part. I think I've had one or two, but for the most part, I discipline myself from doing what I would rather be doing, which is eating and enjoying those things. Cheesecake, I'm a cheesecake lover. If there's anybody that has something resembling cheesecake, I will enjoy whatever it is that they have created. It's not good for me, at least not on the particular diet that I happen to be on right now. If I went into something more keto or carnivore, then perhaps creating a cheesecake would be something that would satisfy me. But right now, cheesecake would be counterproductive to my present nutritional needs. Mental fortitude, being mindful, being self-serving, not self-serving, serving other people. Right, that would be the mindfulness that I'm talking about. Managing our stress, challenging ourselves to do better under stressful types of situations, maintain our head when all others around us are going a little bit crazy. Being consistent, progressively overloading ourselves in our exercises and our other disciplines that become more masculine in ourselves. Making sure that we have plenty of rest and recovery from our exertions, whether that's in the gym or whether that's running or whether that's a mental exercise of one sort or another. People are relying on us. The masculine is the person who's prepared to meet the needs of other people over a sustained period of time. Part of masculinity is disciplining ourselves to meet those needs in every which way that we can. Okay, we'll talk more about masculinity in the future. This is a good foundation for those future discussions. Talk to you soon.